welcome to Big Brother on the Couch, the show that puts the minds of our housemates under the microscope and then delivers the results direct to your living rooms through the power of modern science. It's amazing. Anyway, we've just lived through another crazy 7 days in the Big Brother madhouse. We've witnessed parties, bust-ups, get back together agains. Nikki was evicted on Friday, plus Charlie and the rest of the house got a true sense of what you really think of her. And on the bright side, it means that there's plenty to ponder tonight. There's been flirting aplenty in the house this week, but who really fancies who? We get to the truth via the power of body language analysis.
I've had a little bit of a flirt with a couple of lasses in here. There's now to it.
Resident house stud.
If there's one sport our housemates like to engage in, it's arguing. But are they any good at it? Crash course in how to win a spat coming up.
My instinct is to throw jelly over the lot of you.
Both of you are nuts. I mean, what is going on in this house?
Since Charlie's fake eviction, the housemates have been fixated with appearing on TV. We analyse their ever-increasing self-obsession.
This one's for you, baby.
And tonight's diary room experiment reveals how the art of puppetry can uncover the deepest workings of your mind. Right. With so much sexual frustration in the house, how do the housemates release their tension? No, not like that. By flirting.
You fancy Amanda, that's what I heard.
No, I heard you fancied Liam.
Look at her flirting.
I've had a little bit of a flirt with a couple of lasses in here. There's now to it.
Resident house stud.
Every single girl in here, I can tell you, is a flirt. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah.
But, I mean, does everybody just fancy everyone in that house? Oh. Anyway, here to get to the bottom of it with some steamy body language analysis is behaviour expert Judy James. Oh, Judy, I'm so excited about this.
So am I, and I know what's coming.
Oh, I'm beside myself. OK, so listen, tons of flirting going on, but how can you actually tell if someone, you know, really fancies you? Like, if we were out of an evening, how can we tell?
In my case, it's when they stop screaming for help, but apart from that, generally. There are about 4 different ways. You get flirt signals, but then you get genuine fancy signals. And
yes.
Mostly, it's done, number 1, through what's called eye buzz. And that's when the eyes meet, and you just get that instant chemistry. That's the biggest bit of body language where you can tell immediately whether somebody fancies you or not. Secondly, though, you've got... that was good. Embarrassment signals. Now, we like to think when we see somebody we fancy, we get really cool about them, but then do you ever find, Joe, you go to drink your drink and pour it down your front, or you put your arm in the bar on this?
So I go very red.
Very red,
here.
flushing, chest flush, all that sort of thing. That's quite natural, and that's part of the mating process, and that's the next point, which is mating signals, mating and breeding signals. That's not a subtle one. Oh. That would be the sort of thing where the guys stick their chests out, splay their legs a bit. Women start flicking their hair around, we start smiling to show off our teeth. We're doing that to show that we're good breeding stock, you see.
No!
Yeah, nice, healthy.
A good breeder. OK, and the last one? My husband called me that when he met me. Good breeder. And I was.
The last one is nice. It's the look of love. When you really fancy somebody, you get what's called face softening, and it's a kind of suppressed smile. You can't mistake it.
So it's a bit when they go all gooey.
All gooey and soppy.
I love that. So what we did, first of all, was we got couples of housemates into the diary room to see if they fancied each other. But what kind of thing were we looking for? I mean, what did you get them doing?
First of all, asking them another questions. They're actually scripted. They had to say things like, what do you most admire about me? What are my greatest faults? And then we did an eye experiment. But it's looking at the body language that came out of the first thing. And when you look at these two, we're looking at things like touch and tie signs.
And you're talking about Charlie and Ziggy?
Charlie and Ziggy.
So touchy-feely signs. So let's have a look.
What's on your feet?
Hello.
No, what does it say? Please.
feeling that. I'm so feeling that. It's electric. What's that all about?
Very strong flirt signals, but subtle, and that makes them even stronger. He touches her foot, and she displays the inner side, the soft side of her arm, the soft side of her wrist. That's a very erogenous zone.
And then he sort of does this stroke thing.
Well, it's an area of vulnerability. So this is Charlie showing vulnerability to Ziggy. Very sexy
and look
stuff.
at her little smile, and then...
And she does a little hit as well. That's a playful pat.
Like, stop it, you naughty boy.
Total flirting going on there.
Ah, what else did you spot?
Well, then we get on to self-touch. Now, you've got two people in the house there. They're the big players in the house. They're quite narcissistic, and that shows in their body language because they start touching themselves.
So does stroking yourself mean that you love yourself?
It does if you're these two. They actually look... And he starts stroking his own bosom as well.
Literally, they're just sort of self-caressing. Look!
I think they're enjoying this more than touching one another. Normally, if you see people do that kind of self-stroke, you're almost saying to somebody, oh, you could do this to me if you wanted to. But look. I think with these two, they're saying, I'm loving this. I mean, he's...
Look at Ziggy! He's full-on going for it. Rub, rub. I'd get arrested if I did that. OK, so what other tests did you do?
Then we did the best one of the lot. Now, you've got two people, big players, but both completely allergic to intimacy. Neither of these two can cope with intimacy. They're real players in the house. So we got them to do eye-to-eye gaze test, and this is where it all really starts to emerge.
Oh, Judy. Shall we have a look?
Let's have a look.
Shall we?
Let's please, now.
Charlie and Ziggy, you must now both turn and face one another and look each other straight in the eye without laughing or talking.
It's a little bit weird.
Good Bobby, it weren't that long with him. What's taking so long?
Yeah, what's up with this shit? Go on.
The experiment is now over.
They didn't do it that long with him, so I don't know what that was about.
Yeah.
Thanks, big brother.
Thank you.
Troublemaking, it's probably called.
You must not discuss this experiment with your fellow housemates. Do you understand?
Oh, I promise you I won't.
I feel dirty. I feel like I've seen something naughty.
That was a body language expert's version of porn, actually. I mean, I sat watching that by myself and I was sitting there like that by the end of it. It went on for a long time as well.
Look at him. What's happening here?
They're doing this eye gaze. This is like the film The Horse Whisperer. He's taming the wild stallion here. Oh, no, it's a male horse, isn't it? The wild colt. The wild colt.
Yes.
Yeah, they're using this eye gaze, and he's very, very good at it. She's actually not quite so good, so we've got the hand over the mouth, but he starts doing all these little tie signs, these little nods.
And she's
what's
nodding
interesting,
with him.
She nods back.
And look,
then
she
she does
touches...
this facial stroke. I mean, this
that's
is
so intimate.
Charlie doing a wonderful, sort of really soft gesture there, and then they look at camera and they've both got the look of love on their face.
Yeah, and he's all like, yeah, let's stop that.
And he's doing those licks. He's like,
yes,
smack it. It's just amazing.
And then what
when
about
they
this?
get
Talk us
up,
through the getting up.
This is where it gets even worse. He helps her up. He's really gallant, but don't they look like they're dressing after sex?
Yeah, she's pulling her top down and everything. Yeah. I can't believe it. And then the most telling thing of all is what he says when he's leaving.
Yeah, when it says, you don't tell anybody, oh, you must be joking. I mean, in that
he
really
knows
deep
he's
sex
been
tone.
naughty.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Couldn't believe it. Anyway, listen, are we going to see... honestly... Are we going to see anything happen between those two? We can't. They can't.
It can't. I mean, you'd have to
happen.
turn the lights off in the shower or something. I mean, no. I mean, it can't happen, can it?
Bet it will after.
The big point. I mean, Geoffrey pointed it out. Geoffrey Beattie. You know, those two hate one another, but love and hate very much on the same thing when it comes to passion. And I think, you know, it's extremes of both. They're there. They're definitely there. Big flirting.
OK, now Big Brother also called Ziggy and Chanel to the dining room and did the same tests on them. So let's have a look at their eye gaze.
You must now both turn and face one another and look into each other's eyes without laughing or talking.
It's a little bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
The experiment is now over.
Thank you.
Thanks, Big Brother. These straighteners. Please can I leave them in here and can they be refilled, please?
Of course I can.
Bye.
You don't need to be an expert to see the difference with the exit there. But let's just quickly talk through the gays and everything. Look, I mean, they look quite sweet, quite...
This is extremely intimate eye gaze. They were doing it before they were even asked to do it.
Right.
And their heads are very close as well.
So
that's
that's
very,
good.
very sexual. It should be a sign of love, actually, but it's definitely a sign of lust. They're very much in tune there, but it's mainly coming from Chanel at that point.
Right.
But it is very intimate, very close. They're playing with
just
one
talk me through
another.
this, because she went straight for the straighteners.
This was the bit. They do this big sort of sex scene, and then so the Big Brother says, "Oh, thank you," and she sort of immediately switches off like a light switch. Talks about that, and look at his face behind her.
Look
I mean,
at
this
it.
is where his irritation starts to emerge.
He's not having... Can I just ask you something? Had Ziggy already done the experiment with Charlie when he did the one with Chanel?
Yes.
So he knew
Just
what was
before.
expected.
Just before. He knew
sort of thing.
what he'd done, and he knew what he was about to do.
OK, can we just talk through how he helped Chanel off the chair at the end? Because he kind of didn't.
I mean, you remember what he did with Charlie? He helped her up, and she has to do with
Dada.
Chanel. He's about to walk
Dada.
out his little baby signs to get taken out the chair.
Dada,
Absolutely.
help me.
Absolutely. Helpless stuff. But you also get this amazing stuff with Ziggy, which is where, even though they look as though they're in the throes of love and passion, he starts doing what's called a metronomic gesture, and this
What's
is
that?
really telling leakage. Now, a metronomic gesture is when you...
Leakage. Love the
He's
leakage.
leaking.
Yeah.
It's when you're tapping, or you tap a pen, or you tap your foot, and it's like a metronome. It's actually
yeah.
showing extreme irritation and impatience.
Oh.
And he's doing it behind her back all the
Oh,
time.
no!
Look at it. Tap, 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 tap. Can you imagine?
So she's
Smooching up to
talking,
somebody.
and
she's
he's
actually
just...
saying to him, she's starting to tell him some of the things that, you know, she's criticising him here. We asked her to do it, but you can see his irritation. He really doesn't like it.
OK, quick fire time, Judy. God, this has been so interesting. Right, Charlie and Ziggy.
Electric. Sexually electric, but two worries. I mean, it ain't going to happen.
Chanel and Ziggy.
Big displays of love and passion, but, I mean, that irritation stuff that's going on, they're always going to be at war, those two. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Does she love him?
I think in parts, yes.
Oh, Judy, you're exquisite. Thank you, Judy James.
Thank you.
What a start to the show. Still to come, how the housemates can win arguments in the Big Brother house and how you can do the same in yours. See you in a bit. Welcome back. You're watching Big Brother on the Couch, arguably the most cerebral of the Big Brother offerings. No. Look, it really is. Look, hey, don't argue with me. We've had enough from the housemates.
I'm not saying they want me to argue, but maybe it just brings a bit more spice, doesn't it?
Shut up! You're self-righteous little cat!
Why can't you speak to me like I'm a normal person?
Nikki, this is an argumentative creature.
Oh, off, Jerry. I've got my own freedom of speech, thank you.
What I have cut down is my arguments because I'm not doing it no more. I give up. Bring it on, mate, because anything you've got to say, I ain't bothered by.
I thought that when Charlie left, we would be able to have just a quiet house with no arguments. Don't call me sweetheart, Charlie, please.
I call you what I want, Chanel.
I know you will.
I know you will.
A guy having an argument with a girl, it's just, it's unknown to me.
It's not fair that you think you can do it to me!
I don't.
You do!
My instinct is to throw jelly over the lot of you and say off.
I just want us to be friends. I don't see why we have to argue.
This is shut. Both of you are nuts. I mean, what is going on in this house?
Oh, for God's sake. That's drama.
Such drama. OK, so pretty much every single one of the housemates have had an argument in the house. Even Sam and Amanda, sort of, didn't they? But are any of them any good at it? Well, here to tell us and equip us with the psychological tools to win an argument is psychologist Dr. Tomas Chmura-Primuzic. Hi, Thomas, how are you?
I'm good. I hope we are not going to argue today.
No, we're not going to argue. Honest. Because you're going to teach me how to do it properly. So why do people argue?
Mainly, well, there's personality traits that explain and largely determine people's predisposition to argue. It doesn't tell you how good they are at it, but how likely they are to argue. Mainly agreeableness. And people with low agreeableness scores...
Do you happen to have a chart?
Yeah, we have a very modern chart today.
Very smart,
As you can see, the low agreeableness scorers, Charlie, Carol, Ziggy, Jerry...
I'm amazed by Carol there.
Well, you shouldn't. She tends to drift up and down, but she's very disagreeable. That explains why she's so skeptical and distrustful.
Yeah.
And that means that they are very inconsiderate of other people's, wishes, motivations, etc. So they constantly engage in conflict.
So how do you win an argument?
That's a different question, and we're going to look at different styles, but in general terms, we could say that you have to stay focused on your goals, hide your goals so as to not make them very explicit, and try to influence people's attitudes or beliefs as well as their behaviors. So if you choose the right style also, you're very likely to be successful at it.
In the heat of the moment, you're just going to forget all that, aren't you? You're just going to do it.
Well, one thing is to know how to do it, and then, another thing is to do it.
Okay, so tell me, it's different styles of arguing.
Different styles. The main styles that we're going to look at today are cohesive arguing, then intellectual arguing, then manipulative arguing, and then intrinsic arguing.
Okay, so let's kick off with the first one, cohesive.
Cohesive arguing is a form of arguing that is characterized by influencing only other people's behavior. So people who choose this style don't want to convince others that they're right. They just want to get them to do what they want. It's a very authoritarian type of arguing, a little bit like what Big Brother does to the housemates.
Okay, so we're going to see an example of some cohesive arguing, and we've chosen Carol. She's using this method on Ziggy.
Yeah, okay.
So you're going to be angry with us having some fun when you had so much fun last night?
No.
You had loads of fun.
It's about the response I got when I said to you...
Double standards.
When I said to you... No, it's not double standards.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
What
When
response?
I said to you, mind my clothes, the look I got from you was...
We're minding
like
your clothes.
That.
We're minding... We're just
no,
having
you
a bit of
weren't,
fun.
because you
We were
ran
nowhere
straight
near
there.
your
I wouldn't have
clothes.
said it if you hadn't run over there. And I said that. And I said, don't go in the pool.
Is she winning there? Is she doing well?
It is a very effective form. First of all, it's very easy to test whether this cohesive argument, this form of argument, is effective or not, because you have to look at whether it changes people's behaviors or not. And also...
And it does, really, in the house. They do sort of behave, don't they, around
Exactly.
her?
Next time they are thinking of, running around and making a mess in the house, they'll think twice because they know of the consequences.
Yeah.
And secondly, it emphasizes Carol's authority, Carol's power. Ziggy says to her at the end of the argument, it has to be your way, always, doesn't it? She said, yes. And that's what she wants. So it's a very authoritarian way. She doesn't care about convincing them that she's right or that they ought to do that, but she wants to get things her way.
Okay, talk me through intellectual arguing.
It's quite different. In fact, the opposite, in the sense that people who choose intellectual arguing want to influence others' beliefs or values. It's almost like convincing others about the truth. And these people crucially think that they're in possession of the truth and opt for a very philosophical approach.
You see, I know exactly who you're talking about there.
I'm sure you do.
It's got to be Jerry.
Yeah,
Jerry with a big argument with Tracy.
Yep.
So let's have a look.
I do not want to be accused of spiteful because I'm not.
I've got a brain, I've got a
if you thought Amanda was thinking I'm spiteful, you should use your own little brain to think if he's spiteful or not. Okay, I've got Amanda with me.
Ooh,
Amanda, did you say the word spiteful?
I didn't use that word. I said that.
You so did.
I didn't know that word.
Okay,
please.
Okay.
Okay, vindicated.
Correct. So it's about proving that he's right. Jerry knows that Tracy dislikes him, and that's not the problem. The problem is that he knows that she's lying, and he brings the argument up to a very specific level.
He turned it round, didn't he?
Turning around and focusing on the word spiteful.
One word which he knew he could probably win about.
Exactly. Tracy, I'm not sure if she knows the meaning of the word, but anyway, he goes and gets Amanda as a witness. And then, he's only worried about, emphasizing his intellectual authority over this.
That's it. I've won. She didn't say it. I've won.
Exactly. Whether it's effective or not, we don't know, because Tracy probably dislikes him even more after this, but Jerry doesn't care about that.
Okay, so what about manipulative arguing?
Manipulative combines both. It influences people's emotions as well as people's belief. And it's a very focused kind of arguing, and it's in a sense using arguing to solve a very specific problem. So it's very, very instrumental and pragmatic.
So our most intelligent housemate used that method, didn't she, on Ziggy?
Yep.
With Chanel having a bit of a row with Ziggy. Let's have a look.
What gives you the right to say 1 minute, oh, I care about you so much, and the next minute, oh, don't patronise me.
No,
you can't, Dad. No, you cannot. No, you can't. Because it makes me feel like I think you must think that it's really funny to have arguments with me in front of everyone where people can hear and people can see and people can get involved and it's nothing to do with anybody else. And you make me look really stupid.
And you're nuts. Both of you are nuts. I mean, what is going on in this house?
Oh, I care about you so much. By the way, you're a psycho.
No, you are so off. I don't dislike her, just like you dislike her.
Oh, it makes me feel deeply uncomfortable watching that. Why?
It's a full-on attack. I mean, she's pitching simultaneously at Ziggy's intellect, showing him that he is incoherent because he's supposed to dislike Charlie and he didn't nominate her. And at the same time, manipulating his emotions, making him feel guilty about that.
Yeah, she really lays it on him, doesn't she?
It's a full-on attack, but more importantly, it's a very focused type of arguing because he just wants to solve a problem, which is to get Charlie nominated and convince him that he should do this.
He ends up quite confused, doesn't he? He's like,
very distressed. We can say he's almost about to blow up.
Okay, intrinsic arguing.
Intrinsic arguing is very, it's very easy to define it. It's just arguing for the sake of arguing, Davina.
Oh, that's weird. I wonder who does that. Shall we have a look?
No prize for guessing, Davina.
Okay.
When you saw Emily, you would have thought she was very pretty.
But I wouldn't have liked to live with her.
Because you've heard stories better, but maybe you need to hear again, so you couldn't say that. It's not you
some
want
things, Charlie, there's no grey areas in some things.
Brian, if you don't know someone, you shouldn't say, I don't like that person, I've heard a lot about her. You're right to your opinion, I pick you up on that.
What are you going on about?
Brian, calm down. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. You're giving all these... He's like,
oh, you know what, Charlie, you all sat, yeah? I sat here, yeah? You think you're the only other person who's ever suffered from things.
It's like push and push and push and push. It can't be an effective way of arguing, please.
Well, we had obviously a very big choice of clips to show, but we chose this one because it's quite evident that it starts in a completely pointless manner, for nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
It escalates quite quickly. She chooses Brian, who until, a couple of days ago felt that he was probably her only friend in the house. And it's very, very aggressive, typically Charlie's style. She doesn't care about the impact it has on others. She would never acknowledge that she is wrong. And it's a brutal kind of attack. I mean, it's very, very violent.
But what's the point? It's not...
The point is to argue, because she enjoys arguing. It's arguing for the... That's why it's intrinsic. It has no point.
You said she does get quite aggressive in the arguing. And so could it constitute bullying?
It could, except for bullying, she would have to be in a position of power, which she doesn't. I mean, she has 2 nominations like anybody else. And actually, it's quite a suicidal tactic that she's using because, it's going to get her out sooner than later.
Yeah, it's really not doing her any favours at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, based on everything that we've just seen, I'm going to ask you again, just to round up. How do we win an argument?
Well, I think the take-home message is that, if you manage to use Carol's authority, Chanel's determination and manipulation, and Jerry's logic and, reasoning strategies, you might win the argument. But, so far we've seen other methods being very effective too.
OK, thank you very much to Thomas.
Thank you.
Still to come, we've got the results of this week's psychology experiment, so I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back to Big Brother on the Couch. It's experiment time, the part of the show where we have a good old rummage, in the minds of our housemates with clinical psychologist Dr. Cecilia De Felice. Cecilia, how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
OK, so what was the experiment this week and what were we looking for?
Well, we were really mean to them last week.
Yes, the horrible 15 minutes.
Giving them the silent treatment.
Oh.
So this week we thought we'd give them a little bit of fun. So we asked them to give us a puppet show. So we gave them 11 puppets, all depicting each of the housemates.
Yeah.
And they had to choose themselves and 2 other puppets, and then choose a genre from comedy, love story, horror, or tragedy.
And what were we sort of hoping to see? Just learn a bit more about...
Yeah, well, Melanie Klein, a long time ago, discovered that you could interpret a child's internal emotional world by watching them play. So we thought we'd try and do the same with the housemates.
OK, so we've chosen a few key housemates to discuss. And first up, you wanted to talk about Tracy, and she chose to enact a horror story featuring Nikki and Charlie.
What a surprise.
Let's have a look.
We're the evil twins, man. We go around people's houses and aren't nice to them. So we're going to go and see Tracy today. Hello, Tracy. Come with us to the top of the stairs. That's where they corner Tracy and tell her all the evil things that is going to happen to the world. And if she doesn't participate in that game, she will die. Upstairs there's a window. She calls out for help. The girls are screaming, "Ha! No, Trace. There's no chance of escape." But Tracy leaps out of the window, man, and escapes.
That's like seriously sort of heavy, man. What's going on?
I think this is fascinating. I
thought they were her friends.
Well, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because there's Tracy very much being the good object, the good person in this story. And she's identified these two evil twins who have been her friends in the house. And they come banging on the door to try and get in the house. And she's curious and she lets them in. And I think that's telling us a little bit about her need to have somebody to connect to. But then they chase her up the stairs and say, if you don't play our game, you're going to die, we're going to kill you. And she manages to get up to the top of the house, which is a little bit like, well, it's a little like being the top of the game, survival, success, maybe winning, and she manages to keep them out. They're banging on the door, but she's got herself inside this room. She's kind of like buying herself time to think about what she needs to do next. And she makes this really interesting decision not to let them come into the room with her. These people who have been her friends.
Yeah, so what's she saying? I mean, she's saying she thinks she's made a mistake.
I'm not sure she thinks she's made a mistake. I think she's beginning to see that it's not safe to be friends with Charlie and someone like Nikki.
Right.
Everybody who's been friends with Charlie has been evicted.
Right.
It's like being friends with Charlie is like the kiss of death. And I think Tracy somehow, somewhere knows that and is at this point thinking, should I really be hanging out with this crowd? And what she does is really interesting. She throws herself out of the window. It's like that's a really risky thing to do because who's going to catch her? What's going to be there at the bottom? Is anyone going to be there to ally herself to survive, in other words? And this brings us very interestingly into her next story, which I think we should have a look at.
Yes.
Because it really makes much more sense when we see this.
Yes, because she told another story, so let's take a quick look at that.
This is a story about two friends, Tracy, hello, and Brian, hello. They both went to the same school and both enjoyed their special dinner times together. Each dinner time, they went into the school restaurant and found Dinner Lady Carol. Now, the sweet thing about Dinner Lady Carol is she made them a special meal they both enjoyed every single week. She loved them both and they loved her too.
I mean, so different from her horror story with her two supposed friends.
Yeah.
So is she thinking of changing friends, moving over to them, or what was that?
I think there's such an interesting contrast, isn't there, between the bad objects, the bad people, and the very good objects, the good people in the story. And she's got Brian, who's like a brother, and she's got Carol, who's feeding them all of these good things. It's all about being nurtured, being looked after. And I think somewhere in Tracy's mind, she must be thinking, hang out with the good guys, because hanging out with the bad guys is dangerous.
Carol definitely is featured a lot in the housemates' minds as being the sort of mother provider.
Absolutely.
Isn't she?
The looker after.
OK. Next up, we've got Brian.
Yes.
And he chose a horror story.
Yes, he did.
And in his horror story were Amanda and Charlie. Let's have a look.
Come and stay around my house, guys. So we was like, yeah, come on, we're going to stay around Charlie's great big house, because she had a hot tub and stuff. And we got there, it was proper spooky, it was like the Adam Family house and stuff. And then we had some spooky noises in the night, middle of the night, so we come out to the go, boo. Charlie shoved me into the kitchen, and I got there, and I was proper scared. I was blatantly scared and all. And so I was like, rah, rah, rah. And I looked round the corner, and it wasn't a ghost, it was a great big cat. I ran out of the kitchen. You call yourself a man? She's going, I've got more balls than you. And so Charlie goes in there, and then the cat turns into a great big ghost. And then she's like, gets him and like ties him up in a knot and kicks his ass out of her place. And then they go, Brian, where was your balls when that ghost was here? I'm like, I'm sorry, ladies, I'm sorry. And then another great big ghost comes. So then I kick the ghost ass at this point because I want to save face. And then the second ghost had £2 billion on him, and I took this £2 billion and I shared it equally between the three of us.
Do you know what? That boy's, and we've talked about this before, that boy's imagination is amazing.
It is amazing.
His story is so sort of elaborate.
It's so rich.
Isn't it? And rich.
It's very rich.
So, yes, Charlie, her bling-bling house and ghosts.
What's it all about?
Explain.
Well, I think this is telling us a lot about where Brian is at the moment. He is absolutely devastated by the breakdown in his relationship with Charlie.
Yes.
He thought he had someone he could trust.
Yeah.
And that's been blown away. This story is a horror story, and it's represented by what's the horrible things that are going on in the Big Brother house, which happens to be Charlie's house in his story. So here we've got Big Brother house as being a scary place, Charlie being a scary person. But there he is with Amanda, who's a good person. Now, it's not just about these concrete things of Charlie being a bad person and the house being a bad place to be. It's also about his internal world, the good and bad parts of himself, the positive and negative. We know that a lot of the housemates have said that Brian is often very up or very, very down.
Yes, he's quite polarised.
He is, and it's about this conflict inside of him as to whether he can cope with all of this, whether he can survive. Now, he sees Amanda as being this good person who can take on this scary ghost and vanquish it, and he says, oh my goodness, look, she can do that. What about me? I'm not man enough for this. I'm not man enough. He's very anxious. Even Charlie, he says, has got more balls than I have. He even says that in his story. So I think this is about him really tussling with himself about whether he can rise to the occasion and make all of this work for himself.
But he wins over at the end, doesn't
well,
he?
He takes on this, absolutely, because he takes on this second ghost and gets £2 billion. And he shares that with Amanda and Charlie, which I think is about him saying, look, if I can bring the positive and negative parts of myself together and settle down and not get so upset about things and begin to trust people again, I might have a chance of not... I don't think it's about winning the money, because in his mind, the money's already gone.
Oh, yes, of course, he doesn't think there is any money there.
I think it's more about actually being accepted, being loved, being liked, even winning the show and getting all that validation and that love and acceptance, not just from the housemates, but also from the audience.
I think that's quite important to him.
It's very important, much more important than money.
Amanda, he has feelings for Amanda as well, so it's not surprising.
She's a very good person for him in that.
Right, OK, so finally, Chanel. No surprises here. She told a love story about herself and Ziggy and Charlie. But was there anything interesting that you saw while they were doing it?
Well, it is interesting because Chanel has this really physical reaction in her story. And the first physical reaction we're going to see is her choking.
Her choking?
Choking.
Oh, let's have a look.
Oh, hi. Oh, yeah. Whoa. Why are you being this way? Who are you? A self-ascendant it girl. It girl? Oof. I just choked me on spit. 1 minute.
She was just choking on her own spit. What's going on there?
Well, guess what? Who she's talking about? She's talking about Charlie. She's literally choking on Charlie and how much bile this brings out for her, how distressed, upset, angry, furious she is with Charlie. She's so furious with Charlie that she's literally spitting it up. It's extraordinary.
And you said there were a couple of things that you noted.
She does something else. In the next part we're going to see, she faints. So let's have a look at that.
OK.
I've got a Spanish tattoo on my gorgeous, sexy, muscly chest. Oh, really? While Ziggy was trying to revive Chanel from the floor, a mean lady walked along. All right, I'm a selfie-scented it girl. Oh, my God, I'm such a selfie-scented it girl standing on your face.
That's quite heavy. That's quite violent. It's less of a love story, more of a horror.
I think it's brilliant, this bit. What's really interesting about what's going on here is that poor Chanel, is so terrified of Charlie that before she can introduce Charlie into the story, she has to faint. She has to make herself unconscious. It's like she cannot confront her at all in any way. But what's even more interesting is that she has Charlie come and stomp on her face while she's so vulnerable, all unconscious and vulnerable. And Ziggy just stands there and does nothing.
Yes, he doesn't rescue her.
Now, what's all that about? And I think it's about, at some level, Chanel knows that Ziggy and Charlie have got some sexual thing going on.
Well, we all know it.
That excludes her, and this is so painful to her that she literally has to become unconscious so that she doesn't have to look at it, so she doesn't have to recognise it.
She's dealing quite well with it under the circumstances, isn't she?
I think she's recovering really well at the moment. I'm really rooting for Chanel. I hope she's going to bring it all together.
OK, just thanks very much for your insight. Cecilia. up how watching themselves on the telly box has completely twisted the housemates' minds. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back to Big Brother on the Couch. Now, last week, Charlie did the unimaginable. She was evicted and then went straight back in again. But oddly, it is not what the housemates heard her say about them that's been the biggest impact. It's been the housemates watching themselves on telly.
Oh. She's just, 1 minute she can be so mean and so nasty to someone, and the next minute she's like the best friend because she don't want to get nominated.
I'm practically bored of her continuous name dropping.
I've seen her make comments about just different people before. Didn't like it at all, that she was just like seeing things and stuff.
I just find that she plays a lot of games and, you know...
what do I look like?
But I just don't trust her.
I'm sitting in a diary room on the nomination and my top's off. I look like such a plank.
It was great to watch everyone else, but I hate watching myself. I need a haircut so badly.
The actual sound of my voice is annoying. I sound like a chipmunk.
I look so camp and
You did look
feminine.
particularly camp.
Alex!
I know!
And joining me now to discuss the long-term effects of the housemates watching themselves on Big Brother are psychiatrist Dr. Az Hakim and social commentator Dr. Sarah Churchwell. Hi, guys.
Hello.
So let me kick off with you, Az. You know, with the Charlie eviction and interview, why are they all suddenly so TV conscious?
Well, we need to bear in mind, as always, the three systems that are in place in Big Brother. So there's Big Brother, the housemates, and the viewers at home.
Yes.
And we also need to bear in mind the three levels of consciousness within the housemates' mind. So they've got their conscious awareness, their unconscious, which they're not aware of, and the bit in the middle, their pre-conscious, which is sort of at the back of their mind and they almost forget, but they don't quite forget.
Right.
So what this has done, the fake eviction's done, is that the shift of focus of the viewers and everything happening outside the house has shifted up from their unconscious through to their pre-conscious, now firmly lodged in their conscious awareness. They're very much aware of it, whereas before it was in the back of their mind.
They weren't really aware of it at all, and then suddenly now they're thinking about it 24/7.
Yeah.
And will it wear off again?
It will. What we'd expect to happen is that over a period of time, it would go back down again through their pre-conscious, and they forget about it more and more, as long as Big Brother allows them to. As long as Big Brother doesn't show them any reminders of the other bit of the system, the viewers at home and the whole outside the house bit. So Big Brother should revert to shielding them from aspects like that.
We're going to be showing them little tidbits of the outside world this week and members of their family and things like that.
But I think that part of what had such an effect on them this week as well was not just watching themselves and not just watching Charlie, but watching Charlie be judged. What Charlie saw was her own very negative behaviour. So I think that they have become, in fact, appropriately conscious of whether they need to adjust their own behaviour, whether they too are doing things that are negative. And this isn't necessarily just being worried about appearances or being insincere. It's actually a very social and appropriate response to adjust your behaviour. So when Chanel says...
quite a good thing to do, isn't it?
Because it means you're listening to other people and you're taking criticism on board. So as long as you don't take it to an extreme. For Chanel to say, look, I don't want to sound like a chipmunk, well, you know, maybe she'll go off and take elocution lessons, or who knows, you know. Or that Jerry says, look, I want to be educated, I don't want to come across camp. So to have a degree of self-criticism is a good thing. Certainly Charlie could use a bit more.
OK, so which of the housemates do you think have been affected the most?
That's been really interesting to see. I think that clearly the ones that we would judge as being the more narcissistic of them, unsurprisingly, are very conscious of how they're coming across.
So Ziggy,
they are all a bit
Chanel.
Narcissistic by definition.
Yes.
I think, you know, for
just
being on Big Brother.
Exactly.
But so certainly people that you see looking in the mirror all the time, the people who are responding right there, Ziggy, Chanel, Charlie certainly has also been very affected by it. But so even Jerry, the people that I just mentioned, so they've all been affected by it. But I think we also need to remember, before we start getting too critical of them, how difficult it is to watch yourself on television for the first time. It's really hard. You never look nearly as good as you think you will. You think your voice sounds really peculiar. You become very aware of your own gestures. I suddenly am aware that my hands are moving and I'm probably going to look really ridiculous. And so it makes you really, it's a very alienating and it's a very uncomfortable experience for almost anybody. There are very few people, I think, who just sail through going, I look great.
But you know,
no, of course.
No, honestly, I don't. But you know that thing, you know, in past years, we have shown housemates bits of footage of themselves and stuff like that, but none of it has ever made them
the same effect as this time.
aware. Why?
Well, this year it was different because it was a fake eviction. So what this did is it allowed one of the group to see one of themselves, get a glimpse of a celebrity status, which is what they're all striving for. And if we think of it as it may be represented in the sort of collective unconscious of the Big Brother housemates at the moment, as a rather like a postmodern Big Brother biblical parallel, in that what happened is that one of them left them.
That's impressive.
I love this.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Haven't said it
Even
yet.
it just sounded good.
Parallel.
Just that was good.
One of them left them. They said goodbye to her. She went to the other side. She met with the Big Brother goddess, the divine yourself, Davina.
Is that me?
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
and then was able to perform miracles of the miracle of seemingly being adored by the public when
Yes,
she was
she
out
carried
there,
that off very
and the other
well.
miracle of coming back again. So she became like a sort of a
This is
postmodern Big Brother messiah, and like a true messiah, she saw the ones who had betrayed her. And then the housemates, the remaining 12 housemates, became a bit like the 12 disciples.
Very good.
For a brief
I'm feeling
moment.
this, but it didn't last.
Well, she worked it really well at the beginning, actually.
Brilliantly.
Brilliantly. But Charlie being Charlie, the lure of this new divine status, which she was revelling in, became far too irresistible, and she over-egged and over-milked the pudding to the point in which her new sort of adorable status, supposedly, rapidly started wearing off.
Yeah, whatever.
Irritation factor increasingly started to, rise, and it's back to the same old Charlie.
So now, some of our housemates, having sort of seen this outside world thing, they all think they're TV producers. I just want to give you a few examples.
If you got Chanel's face, it was thunder.
I don't think I shouted. Shall we ask Big Brother for a replay, maybe?
I don't think they're going to show anything nice about me. I think what they're going to show is me going, Zach, why are you being like this? Zach, why are you being like this?
So why are they doing that? It's actually, as a viewer, can be quite annoying because you're thinking, stop producing, just be.
Yeah, absolutely, because you just want them to be, as you say, to just be being themselves. But the problem is, again, that we've introduced this layer of self-consciousness. So they are aware now of editing. They're aware of the degree to which other people have a power over how they're presented. But also, of course, the Big Brother experience in and of itself is very infantilizing. It's very disempowering. So part of what they've seen with Charlie coming back in her new, Messiah, I love that, her Messiah-like, new incarnation, is how much power she got from television itself. That's what invested her with whatever that power was.
Envious of that power, and their envy will probably be a destructive envy.
Exactly. So they've seen that television is the channel to power. So it's not surprising that they're all trying to go down that route.
Yeah. But so for her, on every level, doing that was a big mistake. She's got envy happening.
Initially, it wasn't. Initially, it worked really well for her, and she thought on her feet, and she was able to turn a situation which could have been disastrous into something that worked really well. But it was the way that it worked so well that was the downfall, because then she really sort of...
And importantly, I think that she only thought it through for one level. She thought it through to the degree that she was thinking about the housemates, and she manipulated them quite successfully. But what she didn't think at all about was the second order, what we call the second order of people who are listening, which is, of course, the audience. Yeah. So she's manipulating the housemates and not remembering that, or paying attention to the fact that the audience knows that she's lying. They were there too.
We're going to see a little bit about how she slightly made a bit of a mistake with the audience in a minute. But first of all, I just want to say, we've noticed a lot also how the sort of housemates seem to be doing mini performances, sort of as if doing a little mini compilation of their best bits. Have a look.
This one's for you, baby. I like big butts and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny.
It's Naked Nominations Day.
Hello.
Just, we'll never get bored of seeing Liam with the teddy facing the wrong way round. You don't want the teddy facing that way. Face it out, please. And he did it so...
He was very clever about that. I don't know how he
skillfully.
managed to turn it all the way around without actually embarrassing himself further.
Look, are they ever going to forget that the cameras are there? We mentioned kind of, they're being reminded of the outside world, but we haven't got that many weeks left. Have we ruined it now for the rest of the series? Are they going to be aware for the whole of the rest of the series?
It completely depends on Big Brother, and you said that the Big Brother may be showing them something. I'm not sure what they'll be showing them, but I think it'll depend on what they're shown and what experience they're allowed to have or shielded from about the outside world, the viewers, the public.
Well, it definitely won't be anything like as much as they saw last Friday.
What is it?
But they're going to get, I think they're going to get messages from home this week as part of a task.
That's going to be really interesting, because what they're going to be doing is looking for clues from what they're shown as to what to get some understanding of themselves in the house. So who are the messages from, who's there, who's missing, why are they missing, what have I done to make them go missing? All those sort of things are going to be feeding into their sort of paranoid states of mind.
And earlier on we touched on Charlie with the audience, and we did manage to find a clip of her berating the very people that will be voting for her to either stay in or out of the house when she gets nominated for eviction. Let's have a look.
I said the idiots out there, the audience, wanted me to come in and speak my mind to people that put me up for nomination. I said I weren't about to give the idiots what they wanted.
Did she call the audience idiots? It's not a good move, that one. Big Brother House, this is Davina. You are live on Channel 4. Please do not swear.
Did you hear? Are you sure?
So, guys, very briefly, do you think she can come back from that?
No way.
No, but we need her to.
You like her, don't you?
Great.
No, I find her really depressing, I have to say.
Depressing?
Really
Great
depressing.
for analysis.
OK, great for analysis. Thank you very much to Az and Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Brilliant. That's it for tonight. Next week, we're going to be taking another journey into our housemates' cerebral hemispheres. And next up on 4, Big Brother. It's a show with storylines and housemates. Really jolly good. Good night.
And tonight, the gloves are off. Charlie in the red corner, Jerry in the blue. Get ready to rumble.